Welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite movies, The Lost Boys. And this is definitely a true vampire film. None of that Twilight crap. This is the one I always reference when I say these are real vampires, and I'm so excited to be talking about it with you. This review will have spoilers just because I want to dive into some of the themes fairly deep, so warning in advance. But this movie is about a single mom who moves to a fictional town in California that is also known as the murder capital of the world to live with her dad and the boy's uncle. And as the film goes on, the oldest brother's trying to join this motorcycle gang because he's super into this really attractive girl, and she's kind of mysterious, and he doesn't really know what's going on with her. While the younger brother, he's super into comics. You know, he's going to the comic book shop. He meets these guys called the Frog Brothers and starts forming a relationship. And as the film unfolds, it turns out this motorcycle gang is actually a group of vampires, and they're led by Kiefer Sutherland, and his name is David in the film, and he's trying to get Michael to join their gang. And to become a vampire in this film, there's two parts, and I actually really like this concept of becoming a vampire. You have to drink vampire blood, and then you have to kill somebody and drink someone else's blood. And that makes you become a vampire forever. As the film goes on, Michael is tricked by the vampire gang to drink a bottle of vampire blood that he thinks is some kind of liquor. And then as it unfolds that he is becoming a vampire, you know, they're trying to tempt him with immortality and living forever and being a part of their family forever. And while this is going on, the other brother's discovering these vampire hunters through the comic book shop. He's starting to figure out his brother's a half vampire. And then their mom's going on dates with this weird shop owner guy, and neither brother really likes him. And there's some weird stuff going on there. And of course, the uncle, he's kind of a player. He's in and out of the house, and he's just going on random dates with people. And it's just like kind of a fun film. I love the 80s setup. The night scenes are so much fun, seeing people partying on the beaches in this fictional California town. And the film feels timeless in that regard. And I also just love the 80s vampire gang. Their just makeup and their outfits in this film are just awesome. And of course the music that they play throughout the film. And this film's kind of ironic because in the beginning of the movie, Kiefer Sutherland, you know, he has this really beautiful girl in his vampire gang. Jason Patric's character is into her and chasing her. And so they both are sort of fighting over this girl, or she's at the center of some kind of tension between the two of them. And later on in life, these two were actually friends. And Kiefer was engaged to Julia Roberts, and Julia Roberts actually left him with Jason a few days before their wedding and went, I believe, on what was supposed to be their honeymoon back in the early 90s. This film, I always feel like, is foreshadowing the destruction of their friendship because they're two rivals in this film, and they're fighting the whole time. And this girl is at the center of their controversy. And in real life, they kind of had this epic showdown, and Kiefer lost that one, and this one, Jason, you know, spoilers again, wins the fight because he comes out on top at the very end of the movie. But you know, this film I also really like because of that, separate just from all the, and this film I really loved because of that, separate from all the fun characters and good actors, just like Corey Feldman's also in this film. But most people I know actually know who Julia Roberts is, Kiefer Sutherland. A lot of them don't necessarily know who Jason Patric is, but they have no idea that Kiefer and Julia Roberts had been engaged at one point, and it was one of probably the worst ways you could break up with somebody, you know, right before a wedding. Now, the first theme I kind of want to dive into is this emptiness of immortality, but being young forever. And I know youth is something a lot of people envy, especially when you get older. You know, you see this biker gang and they're not really doing anything with their lives. Like, they're just partying every night, and yes, they're eating people because they're vampires, but separate from that, they're going down through the beach town, they're listening to rock and roll, you know, they're drinking, they're going to their lair and partying, and that's all it is. There's just no motivation, there's no goals, and it's just the same stuff over and over again, and no real direction in their lives. And it seems like they're courting Michael so much because he is still human and he has all these options, and it's almost this like they envy him a little bit type thing. And you know, the emptiness of just living the same way forever and ever, that's a pretty common theme in most vampire films. And the second thing I really like in this film is circling back to the whole you have to drink a vampire's blood and then kill someone to become a vampire. And I love that there's this choice that isn't with a lot of vampire films. Normally it's they bite you and they force you to drink their blood and you're a vampire, or some element along that. Sometimes it's just they bite you and you're a vampire. But in this one I like, because even though Michael gets tricked into drinking vampire blood, afterwards he still has to choose to kill someone. And there's this element of choice that you have to choose to damn your soul for forever. And I think that's such a neat concept that I've always really liked about this film. And full disclosure, I saw this film when I was 7 years old and probably was a little young for it, but man, that's one theme that I've always really loved about it. Even back when I was 7, I sort of picked up on that. But in general, you usually have to choose to do something wrong. And it's very clear that becoming a vampire and choosing to murder people for eternity is probably not a good choice. Not being too judgmental on people's beliefs, but most of us, I think, would agree, probably not the most moral decision. And the last theme I really love about this movie is this idea of longing for family, longing for companionship, and you really see this with the master vampire. And the whole time, you know, you think the biker gang, it's David, played by Kiefer Sutherland, and it turns out at the very end after he dies, because it's clear that he wasn't the master vampire, because when the master vampire dies, all the half vampires turn back to human in this universe. And Michael is still very much a half vampire, and so is the girl that he's been chasing and her little brother. It turns out the guy that their mom has been dating is actually the master vampire, and he was trying to get David to assimilate this woman's kids into their family so that he could make her his queen, his companion for life, and they'd have these children and they co-parent together forever. But there's this kind of element of they want to grow their family, they need the companionship. And again, I think that ties into the loneliness of immortality. But all of us at our core want family, right? We want companionship. As humans, it's something we need. And it's interesting that these vampires, who are essentially demons now, or at least half demons of some type, they still want that companionship, and there's still some of that humanity in them to where they need that. Okay, let's get into the rankings, and I'm coming out straight. This is a 5 out of 5. This is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion, and I don't care who I offend with that. You know, it's perfectly paced. The 80s setting on the beaches is just timeless, and the music, I love the outfits. Great cast of characters, and that's a big thing for me. I gotta love the characters to really enjoy a movie. And you know, everything from the biker gang, which all of them are a little bit different, even though they're all vampires, and their outfits, to the Frog Brothers, who are these semi-vampire hunters, even though they own the comic book shop and they love giving people vampire comic books to try to educate them. Sam, the younger brother of Michael, he's a good character. Michael is also really great. You know, he's got that mysterious bad boy thing, but still a good guy going on. The girl Star is also a really fun character, and she's great because, you know, she's beautiful in a weird way to where you also know something weird is about her. And I know that's kind of complicated to say, but like when you watch the film, you're like, man, she's beautiful, but I know something's off. I just know there's something off. And I don't know if that's just the way that they did her makeup or the way they, you know, filmed it, but from the get-go, you know something's kind of weird. And just the overall vampire lore in this, I love the mythology. Just terrific film. I really don't think they could have done much better. And the other thing about it is it feels very violent, but there's not a lot of blood in it, which I didn't really realize until a couple years ago. And I always can appreciate, especially with a horror movie, when something feels super violent, especially a vampire film, but it's really not that gory. It's really not showing a lot of the violence, and it's kind of all in your head. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the original Halloween, because a lot of the action is really off camera and you just know what's going on. Separate from that, fun meter, 5 out of 5 also. I'm not gonna rehash everything I just said, but this is just such a good paced movie and you'll have a ton of fun if you've never seen it. One of these days, I will convince my wife to watch this film. Again, she's not a horror fan, but I will convince her at some point.
Come on, Dad, talk to me.
Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and like if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Love to know what you think of The Lost Boys. What's your favorite scene? And with that said, all I know is work doesn't seem so bad tomorrow. I don't live in the murder capital of the United States. I don't have vampires trying to hunt me and convince me to be in their vampire gang. Though I gotta admit, it would be pretty fun to hang out with Kiefer in a motorcycle gang. So, I don't know. Stay tuned for next week.